Hey guys, I'm back, and I'm sure it'll come as no surprise to many of you that I will be on the PCT again this summer for 2016. So I figured I'd do another gear video, but this time it's going to be of me giving myself a shakedown. Now, for those of you who don't know, a shakedown is when someone goes through your equipment, goes through your pack, and pulls out things that are not completely necessary, pulls out comfort items in an attempt to show you what you maybe can send home if you're looking to lose some pack weight. So I'm going to try and do that to myself. It's a lot easier to do it for someone else because it's easier to be brutally honest about what you need and what you don't need, not want, but need, when you're dealing with someone else's equipment. So I'm going to do my best. But so this is all of the stuff that I took with me on my 2015 1,100 miles section hike, through hike attempt that turned into a section hike in the 2015 hiking season. So I'm gonna quickly. You guys have seen pretty much all of this gear in videos before, so I'm just gonna go and list the things really fast. I'm not gonna get into any critiques of them. All right, so we got the Marmot Helium 15 sleeping bag, Thermarest Z-Lite sleeping pad, Big Agnes, Fly Creek UL1, the poles in my homemade Tyvek pole bag, homemade Tyvek ground sheet, 6 stakes, and the pole sleeve or the pole splint, emergency pole splint, and the bag. Got the backpack, which is a ULA CDT, the optional foam back panel for the backpack that comes with it. We've got a trash compactor garbage bag for a pack liner. We've got the trekking poles. Let's go up here to clothing. We've got my town clothes, which is a pair of Reebok running shorts and a cotton t-shirt. Got a Go Light Selkirk jacket, cheap Target mittens with REI Cool Max liners, Mountain Hardwear Microdome beanie. We've got Terramar Thermosilk sleeping clothes, extra pair of Darn Tough Hike Trek socks, frog togs, a UL rain jacket. It comes as the whole rain suit, and you just leave the pants at home because they're not durable enough. So you just get the jacket. So just take the jacket. We got the ULA rain skirt. Got the Sea to Summit bug head net. Got a baseball cap, a trucker hat for sun, sunglasses, a white bandana for draping over, for putting under the hat and wearing it. Protect my neck, protect my ears. Got the Ursack all-white food bag, bear-resistant food bag. We've got little screw top bottles of olive oil and hot sauce. Got a long-handled REI spoon. Got a Jiffy peanut butter jar for rehydration, for water. We've got the Sawyer Squeeze, large-size Sawyer Squeeze filter with a little screw adapter. Got water. The number of water bottles I carry depends greatly on what the water source is like. So more in the desert, less in the Sierras, and pretty much everywhere else. So smart water bottles are good. I usually carry one or two of these, the little mini Gatorade bottles, and then a Aquafina bottle cut down as a water scoop. Got my orange poo trowel, just a Collins. I think that's how you pronounce that. Collins, couple bucks. Got wet wipes, a little tiny bit of toilet paper, and hand sanitizer for going to the bathroom. Got a 1.5 ounce, very minimal first aid kit. Got sunscreen, butt cream, toothpaste, toothbrush, Dr. Bronner's soap, a little pack towel. We've got a Jackery bar, external battery, a Petzl Tika XP2 headlamp with a core rechargeable battery. We've got a cable for charging this and charging that. We've got an Apple cable for charging my iPhone 4S, which I also carried. We've got an Apple wall charger, and Apple iPod, extra set of headphones because I thrash headphones. Got the stick pick and a little holder that you can get for the phone. We've got a bandana used for blowing my nose and for wiping sweat, hung out on the shoulder strap of my backpack, a thermometer and compass, REI thermometer and compass, a lighter, a small Victorinox Swiss Army knife, a small whistle. We've got a large gallon Ziploc bag for a mat bag. We've got a little Right in the Rain waterproof journal. We've got a pen, and we've got a Sharpie, and then a large gallon Ziploc for a garbage bag, and a small snack-size Ziploc for a wallet. So that's all the stuff that I carried all the time, and then here are two things that were some of the time. This is my BV500 Bear Vault bear can, carried through Yosemite, pretty much exclusively in Yosemite, and then the Go Light Chrome Dome umbrella, which was carried through the desert and until I could ditch it when my family came to see me in Mammoth, but really you only need it until Kennedy Meadows. So that's what I carried. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate all of this equipment out into two piles. One is going to be comfort and one is going to be necessary. Comfort or necessary is going to be anything that I have to survive, stay safe, and keep moving forward. So it is truly only things that I absolutely really have no choice in having, because without them, there is a solid, realistic chance that I'm either going to die or suffer greatly without them. So that's what necessary is. And comfort items are everything else. They're things that make it more enjoyable to be on trail, more enjoyable to camp. They're just all of that stuff that you don't 100% need. Not want, but need. Things you can't use something else for. It's that kind of stuff. So that's what I'm going to do. But the trick is, I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be trying to drop weight without spending a penny. Because there's a misconception about going ultralight in that you're going to have to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars to do that, to go lightweight or go ultralight. And that's not true. The best way to go lightweight, the best way to drop pack weight, isn't to go and buy a really expensive Cuban fiber tent or a really, really expensive, although sleeping bags you kind of have to buy a nice one, that's just the way it goes. But it's not to buy super expensive stuff, it's to get rid of things that you don't absolutely need. It's to pare down and whittle away the comfort items that you can live without. So I'm going to try and do this without spending a penny. Now there is something here that I'm going to replace, that I did replace. I bought a Jackery Mini to replace the Jackery bar, and I bought a Petzl E-Light to replace my headlamp. I did those a while ago. I did those pretty much right after I got back from the trip. So those I did replace. I didn't have those on my last trip. Those are new purchases. But other than that, I'm going to try and drop a significant amount of weight here, or at least show you how to do that without spending a penny on gear. Alright guys, so let me go ahead and separate those out and I'll turn the video back on. So I've gone ahead and separated everything out into the comfort items pile, the necessary pile, and over there in the corner is the sometimes pile. And you'll notice there are a few things that weren't in the sometimes pile before. So let me go through the necessary pile and explain why those things stayed, what purpose they serve that I don't believe can really be served by any of the other things that I have in there. So we've got the sleeping bag. Hypothermia is a serious concern. You need to be able to get warm somehow, and sleeping bag is a good way to do that. So sleeping bag for hypothermia, very good. You need the Big Agnes Fly Creek UL1. There are much lighter shelters out there. Even if you wanted to invest in the dedicated ground sheet for it, you could leave the tent body at home and just carry the ground sheet, the stakes, the poles, and the rainfly, and that would save you about 9 ounces, roughly 9-10 ounces on an overall weight. 10 ounces possibly on an overall weight, and that would be fine, but you would have to invest another $40-50 in the ground sheet. So, but you absolutely have to have a weatherproof shelter, something to shelter you from rain, from snow, from all of that. That is a serious thing that you have to have. So we've got the tent body, the bag that it comes in, to make it actually fit in the backpack, because it really won't without it. And we've got the poles, which, if you notice, don't have the bag on them anymore, don't need the bag. You've got the stakes that don't have the stake bag anymore. I also don't have the splint anymore, because I've been backpacking for many years and I've never had a pole break. As long as you're careful, that's unlikely to happen. All right, sun stuff. Heat exhaustion, heat stroke, very real concerns. You need to have sun protection. Also, sunburn, plain and simple. Rain gear. You need to have core rain gear. Your legs are not super important, but you need to protect your core from the rain. Not so much from getting wet, but from getting cold. Again, hypothermia, so that's what that's for. We've got a warm hat. You lose a lot of your heat through your neck and through your head, so a warm hat is worth more than a warm jacket. We've got a pair of socks. Those are definitely necessary for at least the desert. You might be able to get away with one pair of socks for most of the trail, but at least through the desert, unless you really want to have blisters and just completely thrash your feet, you need to be able to change your socks out. Toiletries, we got the hand sanitizer, keep yourself from getting sick, and the wet wipes. Now, you could just get away with toilet paper. Some people, you might be able to say, well, you could just use leaves, that's fine, but there are certain parts of the trail where that's not an option. In particular, the desert. There's not a whole lot of like big, nice leaves for that, unless you want to use a stick or a rock. Some people do use rocks, and I guess you could do that, but hand sanitizer is an absolute necessity. We've got the backpack. Clearly, you need a backpack. You could cut things off. You could cut the hip belt off. You could cut extra straps off. I'm not going to do that for this video, but that is something you could do to make even the backpack lighter. We've got the trash compactor bag to keep mainly to keep the sleeping bag inside dry. Nothing else in here really matters all that much if it gets wet. We've got the map bag. You need maps. It's if you want to stay safe, stay found. Map bag, keep them dry. And then I replaced the pen and Sharpie with a little IKEA tiny pencil that, that was free. I didn't have to buy that. For food bag, I replaced the Ursack with the Opsack that came with it. So it's not an extra purchase. That came with my Ursack. I'm not sure if they're still doing that, but that came with mine. And the REI long spoon. So you do need to have something to hold your food. You could use just a cheap plastic grocery bag, anything like that, but just to kind of keep your food together. I guess theoretically you might not need that, but we've got the first aid kit, sunscreen, anti-chafe cream, toothpaste, toothbrush, small headlamp, safety whistle, thermometer. This is more because of the water filter I carry. If I have to keep an eye on the temperature. If it drops down below freezing, my water filter can break. So unless I want to switch to a chemical system, which is possible, then I have to keep an eye on the temperature. Small knife, that kind of goes with the first aid kit, and a lighter for sterilizing the knife, sterilizing the needles, whatever I need to do, or, starting a fire. Water, again, the number of water bottles depends greatly on what water sources you're dealing with, how available water is in the area you're in, so depending on where you are. Sawyer squeeze, I took off the top, so this is just the filter. That's you need that. Garbage bag to pack out your trash. Don't be a dick. Pack out your garbage. Wallet. And I replaced the water scoop with a Ziploc bag. Because there are some water sources you are not going to be able to get the water from if you don't have some sort of scooping device. So unless you want to carry a ton of water and go between those, skip those water sources, which I wouldn't recommend, then you're going to have something that can scoop up water. And those smart water bottles and even Gatorade bottles aren't going to work perfectly for that. Okay, now that is the stuff I deem necessary, at least in my humble opinion. Now, the stuff I deem comfort. Some of this stuff might surprise you by the fact that I put it in the comfort section, but it's, again, in my opinion, it's true. So we'll start up here. Puffy jacket. I know a lot of you guys are going to say that that's a necessity. Not really. You don't really use the puffy during the day when you're hiking. If you're cold, you put on your rain jacket because sweat doesn't affect a rain jacket. Sweat will affect your down jacket, and you're generally not cold while you're hiking anyway. Your body temperature is up, so you're not going to use the rain jacket except at night and in the mornings when you're in camp. And when you're in camp, you should pretty much be in your sleeping bag. So you don't really need it. It's nice to have, but you don't need it. Gloves don't really help me. I have very cold hands, and it's kind of like wrapping a glove around an ice cube. It's not going to make the ice cube warm. It doesn't really help. My hands are just cold all the time, so that's kind of a personal thing for me. I know a lot of people consider gloves a necessity. Sleeping clothes. They help keep the sleeping bag cleaner and maybe you a little warmer at night, but you're not going to die without them. Mosquito head net right there. It's a sanity saver, but you're not going to die without it. Town clothes, a definite comfort item. Town clothes are not a necessity by any stretch of the imagination. They are comfort, absolutely. We've got the footprint for the tent, the ground sheet for the tent. Unless you don't, you're going to thrash the bottom of your tent or the bottom of your shelter. if you are carrying a shelter. If you're not carrying something, if you're just carrying a tarp or something, then you can get away with, I guess, maybe not having one, or just carrying this, and that would save you some weight. But if you're carrying a tent, you don't absolutely have to have it. It will save your tent from being thrashed, though. Tent stake bag, don't need that. Tent splint, I already explained, you don't need that. Tent pole bag, and the little sock that I use to protect the end of the tent pole bag from the sharp corners of the tent poles. It's a comfort. I mean, I can live without it. It might be a little rougher on my backpack, but I can live without it. Now, sleeping pad and back panel for the backpack. Sleeping pad, while it's pretty miserable to sleep straight on the ground because it's very cold, you're not going to die. You might not have a great night's sleep, but if you get better at picking campsites that have a lot of duff, pine needles, leaves, that kind of stuff, your night will be warmer. You'll still be kind of cold, but you're not going to die, so you can live without it. Back pad for the sleeping bag, back pad for the backpack. You can learn how to pack your backpack without it. It is really nice to have, and it doesn't weigh very much, but you can learn. You're not going to die without a back pad. Moving down here, electronics. Electronics are almost always a comfort item. The headlamp is necessary. The headlamp over there I would consider a necessity just for safety, but you don't need all of this stuff. This is all fun stuff. You've got an external battery, and this includes the cell phone and camera. You don't even really need that. When you get into a town, there are phones you can use. You can ask a store or a restaurant or something if you can use the phone. So while very, very nice to have, very convenient, not a necessity. So all this stuff, the chart, and without any of these things that need to be charged, you don't need the cables, you don't need the wall charger, you don't need the iPod. It's a comfort thing. We got the stick pick. Clearly, if you're not bringing a phone and a camera, you don't need that. Got the little top for the smart water. That just makes it easier to fill. It's not a necessity. We've got these, the soap and the towel and the toiletry bag. Nice to have, but not needed. Ursac food bag. Don't absolutely have to have it. It keeps rodents out, but other than that, yeah. We got the hot sauce and olive oil. You should be able to carry enough food where you don't need them. Those just make food taste better. And the olive oil adds a little bit of calories, but the trowel, you can survive by... You can dig cat holes with your boot. You can dig them with a stick. You can dig them with your trekking poles if you use those. Trowel's just nice to have. The bandana hanging on the backpack for blowing your nose. Nice, but not necessary. Got the rehydration jar. I only used it once in 1,100 miles, so clearly it's not a 100% necessity. And even that one time I could have gotten away without using it. Water scoop, we already replaced that with a Ziploc bag. We replaced these with the little pencil and the notebook. I probably would tear out these pages that have my resupply information on them and keep those, but then I'd leave the notebook at home. All right, now, in the sometimes pile, I've moved a couple things over here. So we still have the Bear Vault Bear Can, we've got the Go Light umbrella, but now the rain skirt and the trekking poles are over here. The rain skirt I would only carry for Washington. You only have to have it really for Washington. That's when it starts to get pretty cold. You might be dealing with some snow. You can deal with having cold legs for, a day, maybe 2 days in other parts of the PCT, but in Washington, you're going to be dealing with it for multiple days at a time, and then you start getting into kind of hypothermia territory when you're not able to keep your core body temperature up, and you're having to pump blood to your legs. It's a safety thing, in my opinion, for Washington at least. And the trekking poles, I ended up not really ever using them except on very, very steep descents on the trail, and there aren't a whole lot of those. So I would only carry those, and in snow. So I would only carry these in the high Sierras because of snow, and in Washington because, well, everything's wet, so it's very slippery. The trail is wet. You can't trust rocks or roots or anything because I fell so many times in Washington that I think these are necessary for that, at least northern Washington. So again, high Sierras and Washington, nowhere else. So that's the equipment separated out. Now, doing a shakedown has two parts. It's separating everything out, having somebody separate everything out into the comfort and necessary. But then the next part is you going through these items that you've deemed comfort and putting back in what makes your hike enjoyable for you. What makes it more fun to be on trail. Yes, you could survive with just this stuff. And I weighed everything that I pulled over here, not the sometimes things, but all of this comfort stuff, and it came to 4 pounds, 14 ounces. So even me, who goes fairly lightweight, I was able to pull out 4 pounds, almost 5 pounds of equipment that is not 100% necessary. So the next step would be to go through all of this stuff and figure out what I want to put back in. And no one can fault you for wanting to have comfort items, because that's one of the things that makes a hike more fun. You can carry some comfort things. It just makes it more enjoyable. No one wants to be miserable on a hike. You're out there to enjoy life. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and point out the things that I probably would take back with me. So I would probably keep the jacket. It's great in towns. You're not only living on trail, you're also in town. So the jacket is really nice in towns. It's nice at night. It's nice in the morning. I would probably keep that. I'd leave the gloves. I'd keep the sleeping clothes, because they do keep your sleeping bag cleaner, which then in turn keeps the loft. As your sleeping bag gets dirty, the loft decreases and it gets colder. So I'd keep those. Also, just it's nice to get into something clean at night. Mosquito head net, I consider that an absolute. Without that in the Sierras, you're gonna want to die. So I'm gonna put that back in there. Now, I would say one or the other of these two things. I would either go with just that as the back panel, or more likely, I would just have this, because you can use this as a back panel to your backpack. And I would probably leave that at home. The ground sheet I would keep, because, as I mentioned earlier, you can completely thrash your tent if you don't have that. And tents are expensive, and I don't have a ton of money, so I don't really want to have to buy a new tent at the end of the season. I wouldn't keep the tent stake bag or the pole splint or either of these two things. Probably not, depending on how rough those poles end up being on my backpack. I would leave the scoop. I'd leave the pens. I'd take out the pages of the notebook and leave the notebook at home. Honestly, I probably would keep the soap and the towel, just because I am trying to save money, and it is a great way to save money on trail, having that stuff, because you don't. The main drives for staying in a hotel in town is getting a shower and doing laundry. And you can shower, washing your hair particularly. You can do that in a sink. You can do that, get some water from a stream, get away from the stream, and then wash your hair. You can do that in the woods. So if you do that, you can save some money by not having that same pull to get a hotel room in town. So that's probably what I'll end up doing, just to save money. I'll probably keep this because it makes filtering water more efficient. The electronics, I'd keep all of this stuff. I'd leave this at home because I almost never used it. I think I used it 2 or 3 times on trail. I thought I would do it more, and I just didn't, especially since I didn't really use my trekking poles very often. The Ursack, I'll probably leave that at home. Maybe I'll have it sent back to me for northern Washington when the rodents get really, really bad, because I really don't want them chewing through my tent to get my food bag, but I don't really see a need for it anywhere else. The bottles with the hot sauce and olive oil, I'll definitely be keeping the hot sauce, maybe leave the olive oil at home. The hot sauce just makes the fairly bland food a little bit more palatable. The trowel, definitely will be keeping that, especially since I won't be carrying my trekking poles very often, and it's one of the things I care about. It matters to me. The bandana, probably won't keep that. I can get away with just having the white bandana over there, and the rehydration jar, since I only used it once, I won't be carrying that again. So I will be putting back a fair number of these things, and that's totally up to you. No one can fault you for that. So if anybody turns up their nose at you for wanting to carry some comfort items, that's not somebody you need to be listening to. It's your weight. You carry what makes you happy to be on trail. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and comment, subscribe. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer and put them down in the comments below. If you have any suggestions for more videos that you'd like to see, I'd be happy to do them. Put those in the comments below, and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.